Okay. Okay, peace, family. So, hopefully, y'all can hear me. I don't have my headphones, so hopefully, y'all can hear me. This is not going to be a super long live, but I just want to touch on a few things. Hold on. Here we go. I just want to touch on a few things, so hopefully, y'all catch this when you catch it. But, let me just set up. Okay, so I wanted to talk real quick about this because I know it's been making headlines, and a lot of people probably seen this already with the girl who basically unalived herself and her significant other, subsequently causing one of her two children to pass away because of oncoming traffic. So, if you have not heard about that story, it's something that you guys can look up, but it's been going around and a lot of people have talked about it. But I wanted to touch on not that situation specifically because, again, I just didn't do enough research. I just wasn't led to do enough research. I could pick up on what I need to pick up on the situation without having done that. And so, what I take from it is one, there had been a lot of downloads coming through about there being basically a demonization, if you will, of arts and practices, things like that. African traditional religions and spirituality, things like that. So, with that, with this recent passing of this young lady, and rest in peace to her, but I think that they were using that as an opportunity to demonize spirituality, or they're using it as an opportunity to demonize spirituality. I just recently seen something coming out where there's going to be a movie coming out about Tarot as well. So, and it's supposed to be a horror film. So, we already should know by now that when we see things like that on the world stage, that again, the world is a stage and you have to take certain things with a grain of salt. So, it's not like it hasn't been talked about before that they do pick up on stuff that's going on in these different communities, divination and, you know, traditional spirituality, stuff like that. They do come into the communities, taking a look to see what's going on to be able to make content like movies and shows about it and so on and so forth. So we know this and we've seen this time and time again. So I do know that a lot of that energy is also taking place as a part of this unfortunate circumstance. So I think that with that situation, we have to talk about, and this is not to say that I know her situation specifically because I do not. I think that from what they have said about it, and from her words, based on her Twitter and different things like that, um, she was under some sort of spiritual attack. I want to be very careful with the words that I use because, like I said, I didn't research the situation. I only know what I saw based on articles. So, again, I do believe that the young lady was under some sort of spiritual attack, but I think that there are underlying issues that were brought to my attention because of this unfortunate circumstance. So, one of those being that the fine line between spirituality and mental health, which I think that a lot of people are riding a fine line, whether you see them with a large platform or a small platform. Peace, Ancient. Whether you see people with a large platform or a small one, I think that there is a lot of people that are suffering from mental illness and they are parading around under the guise of spirituality because it's easy to get away with things in a community that is so flexible and that is so open to different ideas and things like that. And I think a lot of people get carried away. Hence how cults are created, right? It's a fine line between spirituality and mental health issues, and I think that that has to be addressed. And I think people have to be very discerning when we are tuning into certain people because of those things, right? So yes, the mental health issues. Sorry, I was trying to see what you said. The mental health issues are very prominent, and you can see it in a lot of people that parade around in the spiritual community, and have a grandiose idea of themselves, not relative to the truth or the situations that are actually taking place. But that's another story. But I absolutely do think that there is a fine line. So on the spiritual aspect of it, right? So hold on. Because I have a book that talks about it also. Dr. Layla Africa. If you guys are not familiar with Dr. Layla Africa, definitely look into his work. Rest in peace to Dr. Africa. But there's in his book, African Holistic Health. Hold on. I got it right here. He talks about certain mental health issues and their causes, and how a lot of deficiencies cause mental health issues. What I know just from spirit and my own knowledge, obviously, is that when it comes to spirituality and mental health, the fine line is that a part of our gifts are technically based around a chemical imbalance. I'm trying to word this very carefully so it can make sense. A lot of our abilities and gifts are based around a very special chemical makeup, our DNA, our genetics, right? Very special chemical makeup. These chemicals that are made up that allow us to have claircognizance, clairsentience, clairvoyance, our ability to be able to perceive situations and events ahead of time, that comes from a certain chemical makeup, a certain chemical balance, right? Overproduction of these hormones in certain areas is a certain makeup for one individual. It's going to be different per person, right? So hear me clearly. So when this chemical makeup is imbalanced per individual, this is when you get mental illness, right? You get chemical imbalances. Chemical imbalance can be an overproduction of certain hormones, which is why certain herbs like adaptogenic herbs are recommended to balance out hormones, because your special makeup, right? Your individual genetic makeup, your DNA, the way that your chemicals are compounded with these herbs, it will help to naturally balance it out to where you need to be. Everybody's makeup is different, and adaptogenic herbs are able to do what? Adapt to your genetics. Adaptogenic, right? It adapts to your genetic makeup. The herbs do. So this allows you to be chemically balanced. This is why the herbs are important, because there are a lot of different ways for us to become chemically unbalanced. Obviously, in the reality that we are in, it's very easy. Overstimulation is one way to overproduce chemicals within the mind, right? And this can happen because when we're online, when we're on social media, stuff like that, right? You're getting so many hits of dopamine at a time. So overstimulated, right? This is stimulating your nervous system. This is stimulating everything in, within, and around you, right? Having this constant dopamine hit, like, ooh, a like here, boom. Ooh, a comment here, boom, 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 boom. Like, it's constant overstimulation, right? So the dopamine and your serotonin levels and your melatonin levels, all these different levels are now fluctuating based on what we're intaking. So it's very easy on a regular basis to become chemically imbalanced. There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is there's a very fine line, because those of us with gifts have a very specific makeup that allows us to be able to secrete certain chemicals when we need to, in order to be able to pick up on certain elements within our environment and our reality. Okay? So, with that, some of us have a very special ability to be able to control the ways in which our body adapts to situations and secretes certain hormones and more, or certain chemicals, more at one time than another, just like your fight or flight responses, right? Our gifts and our abilities, we're strengthened. It's Mercury retrograde, y'all, because listen, I'm gonna get this message out regardless of if my words want to cooperate. Okay, give me just a second. But like I was saying, we all have a certain makeup that when we are strengthening our gifts and abilities, we're learning how to ebb and flow with our own genetic makeup. Also, with these abilities, I have to be able to foretell, foresee, to prophesy, to be able to pick up on experiences and events ahead of time on a consistent basis, which means I have to be able to flex my mind's abilities to envision and imagine and allow spirit to download and to be able to perceive and to be able to pull from higher vibrational timelines, being able to pull from higher dimensions. And you see what I'm saying? Like, to be able to connect to source, and then to be able to pull information down and to be able to use it on command. Now that is a gift, that's a skill, that's an ability. But I have to be able to flex this muscle, which is to be able to use my chemical makeup to my advantage. Those who are not able to do that ride a fine line on mental illness, because the overproduction of these hormones can make a person crazy. They can begin to see things that may not be there because they're not able to flex that muscle. So all they're doing is getting an overproduction of the chemical that allows them to be able to see, perceive, or pick up on situations and circumstances in their environment. So it's not even so much so that a certain thing or person, place, or thing is not there when a person is imagining it, right? Because they're picking up on it. Their mind is secreting these different chemicals that are allowing them to pick up on it. But what it is that they're not picking up on this sensation in real time. They could be picking up on situations or circumstances that have already taken place in an environment. They could be picking up on someone who has passed, who may be, an apparition. They could be picking up on a lot of things. But the over secretion of these chemicals causes them to not be able to pull the rein back on what we would consider abilities when they're in control. When they're in control. But we have to be very careful of not using our discernment and being able to recognize within others when we see mental illness. There's a very fine line. So, and another reason why this is so important at this time is because I've had someone who I was friends with in the past who obviously is going through a mental breakdown or some sort of psychosis, because this person keeps reaching out to me with grandiose imagined situations and circumstances, and just attacking me and everything like that. But what I do know is that when a person has trouble following their path, or doesn't have guidance when they're on this path, they can easily be led into the other side of spirituality, which becomes psychosis and mental illness. A lot of people, when they go through awakening, they are experiencing some form of psychosis. All of us have to go through some sort of, we all experience a mental expansion. What can be a mental expansion for one could be a mental break for someone else. Your reality has changed. So, of course, everything that you're experiencing has changed. What you know to be true has changed. That can cause psychosis. So, if you don't have someone along the path that you can say, okay, this is a normal feeling. Now am I in territory that is feeling uncomfortable for me? Am I in territory where I'm not really sure if what I'm experiencing is resonating with others? I'm not sure of the experience at all, period. I just need guidance. I've never even had this experience. I don't know anyone else who can confirm or deny said experience. Now, this is important because when I was early on in my journey, without those confirmations, I would have absolutely felt like I was going crazy. But being able to strengthen my gifts along the way helped me to not be able to go off the deep end like so many people do. And it's not talked about enough. And I think that that's a very poor part on the community's behalf, that we're not talking about mental illness enough in the spiritual community. I don't consider myself a part of the spiritual community, but if you look at a distance, it might all look the same. Because what I do from the heart, somebody may be doing for pay or for whatever other reasons. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it may all look similar. And it's not, this is more than just passion. This is a mission. This is a purpose. This is what I was put here to do. So yeah, I feel like it is the responsibility of the people who get up and say, this is the way that we should be operating in these spiritual waters. Yeah, it's important to say, if you cannot swim, stay on dry land. Because a lot of people are falling by the wayside. They're falling through the cracks. People are being left behind. People are absolutely being left behind. And it is our responsibility, especially in the age of Aquarius. Maybe in the age of Pisces, we could say it wasn't our responsibility, but in the age of Aquarius, it is absolutely our responsibility as a community to make sure that we have these conversations about mental illness and be very responsible in calling it out and saying, there's something amiss here and it needs to be addressed. And we're not going to give that thing attention, because if that thing grows, that's going to get out of control, and that's going to be unhealthy for the people who are not only engaging with it, that are watching, that are taking part in it, whatever. Heavy is the head. And with that crown comes responsibility. Do not get it twisted. It is very, very important that we start to address some of these things. So we have to understand that a lot of these people who are dealing with mental illness also, that there is a spiritual reason behind a lot of these things. So just to go back and circle back to why it's important to have people along the journey, and why things like Patreon, and I know people may be against, oh, you would have to pay to, watch the content or whatever the case may be. This shit is important. If $5 or $9 or whatever it is, however much it is, to tap in and to just make sure that you can tap in with the community and take a peek in to make sure that you're not off the deep end. Like, if that's not worth that, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's those things that I paid for were important along my journey. The mentors and the time spent and the money put towards it was absolutely fucking important to make sure that I did not go off the deep end. It's very important that y'all find people who align with your highest good. Allow spirit to bring you people who align with your journey and resonate with you at a very deep level that you can trust, because you can't trust all these people. Let's be very clear. You cannot trust these folks. So you will align with people that you can trust when you are discerning enough to be able to recognize the wolves from the sheeps. So like I said, I had my first experiences, and it wasn't even just like a mentor that helped me to not feel like I was going crazy when I first started to hear spirits and different things like that. The first person I had went to was my dad, and I talked to my dad about it, and he was like, spirits are very real. Told me that he communicated with his twin, and it kind of went from there. But that gave me a type of peace that I had not known for weeks because I was losing my shit. So it's like, even just to have that one person, and it being my dad, which was very like significant and important to me, because my dad, we never talked about spiritual things. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, and that's just kind of the way we kept it. It was what it was, so, but we never talked and had full in-depth conversations about faith together. So for this to be our first experience, for it to be, an episode of Paranormal Activity, and it just happened to be what we bond over, it was like, I can appreciate that because I needed that confirmation. I didn't care who it came from at that point, but I'm grateful that it was my dad. But that was like the beginning. So there were other people that came along the path that would help to confirm. There weren't a lot of people that I knew that had the same gifts as me necessarily, but were interested in spirituality very much so. So, it's interesting. It's very interesting. But I will say this: having people that resonate with you, having community is important. And on this journey, you can't really do without it. That's just the truth of the matter. In one way or another. Like I said, even if it's just to peek in and to make sure that you're not going off the deep end, then yeah, you need that. But furthermore, with certain mental illnesses as well, we have to understand that these things can happen very easily. The way that spirits are passed on or between people and generations is one that also we have to take a look at as well. So especially with the things being passed on to people. So I would say it like this. Well, I'm just going to use this as an example, right? Say, for example, someone says, I have bipolar disorder, and then, maybe my mother had it, maybe her mother had it, something like that, right? Those things are not necessarily the only thing that's running in the family. What's happening is there is a succession of the energy being left open between generations. Like these individuals having their spirits being left open in some way in order for other spirits to now occupy that space, or them having been disassociated from the body for so long that other spirits were allowed to come in, and now it becomes a fight for this one body. This is the polarity that they're experiencing within the one vessel, right? So this is something also that the person before them and the descendant before them, whatever, the ancestor before them had also experienced. But this is literally a pattern, right? A pattern of disassociation between generations, because that's what left the body open to be able to have this experience, if that makes sense. Let me preface this by saying I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. This is my experience, and I implore everyone to do their own research. Okay? Please do not take any medical advice. So, like I was saying, leaving the body open for disassociating from the body for long periods of time leaves the body open for other spirits to be able to come in. It is very easy to disassociate. A lot of us don't even realize that we are disassociating. Sometimes it's daydreaming. Sometimes, again, there's such a, and that's so interesting because it's such a thin line. Like, To daydream is wonderful, but to do it in excess is to disassociate. And so we have to, you see what I'm saying? Like the line is very thin. To daydream is beautiful. To have an imagination is wonderful. To create things and manifest it, that's wonderful. But to do it in excess literally will leave you out of your body for such an extended period of time that you will disassociate. And then you will leave yourself open and susceptible to other spirits coming in, other lost souls or other whoever, you know, whoever and whatever that wants to come in. Okay? We have to be very careful with a lot of the behaviors, especially when we know that there is a pattern that is being displayed within our genetic makeup that is causing some of these things to happen. Let me look at this book by Dr. Layla Africa. Like I said, I didn't prepare anything. I just wanted to come and have an open dialogue with y'all about this thing because this is, to me, very important. And I'm seeing it left and right. And I'm seeing a lot of people in my generation who are also self-coping. Like they're self-medicating. And everybody, you know, copes with this reality in the way that they have to. But it is my true inspiration for us to get to a point where we don't have to cope with it, where we can just be comfortable and enjoy and literally be in an existence where we don't have to grasp for something to feel something or to be able to experience what it feels like to be truly connected to source. You see what I'm saying? Because that's what people are really running after. They're really chasing a connection with source, and they're losing because they're lost. You see what I'm saying? Oh, hold on, y'all. My phone fell. Ancient say you just encountered family going through it. Yeah, my family actually just went through a similar thing. I had a cousin that just passed recently, and literally it was a case of self-medication and stuff like that. There was more to it, but, you know, in so many words. And then, what did you say? Taurus, what kind of advice would give to one as myself to know more about self and my own spirituality and inner self? I would start with your birth chart. If you haven't started with your birth chart, start there and dig deep. Let me look at this book because Dr. Layla Africa, I'm pretty sure he talked about it in here, but I know that certain deficiencies cause things like depression and anxiety within people, which is why I'm going to forever recommend the adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha, rhodiola. I want to say ginseng, but I'm not 100% that it's adaptogenic. I know holy basil. Taking herbs like ginkgo, strengthening the mind. Like, I mean, there's so many different ones, but certain deficiencies like magnesium levels not being right can cause issues. Vitamin D, for instance, not having enough sun, like literally those are the things that cause a lot of these mental illnesses as well. Literally just not having enough of the right supplements, not being sufficiently balanced within the mind, body, and spirit also. But the physical body can be aided. They all work on one accord. So let me look at this. I believe that he did say something about it. I know he broke down stress. Vitamin B for stress, pantothenic acid, and niacinamide, calcium, magnesium, CoQ10. I'm telling you, aids in circulation, decreases tension. CoQ10 was a really good one. It's for cellular growth as well. Magnesium relaxes tissue, stabilizes energy. Calcium aids in relaxation. Niacinamide increases nutrients to cells. Pantothenic acid helps regulate adrenal hormone release. So it's a breakdown. If you don't have this book, like I said, I'm gonna recommend it till I'm blue in the face. African Holistic Health by Dr. Layla Africa. There's some other ones though, but where you're affected by these things too within the body, you will also begin to see how it has an effect on us. We have to understand that things happen from the spiritual to the mental to the emotional and then to the physical. If something is weighing so heavy in the spiritual that it now becomes mental, now you're thinking about it. Now it's on your mind because it's heavy. It's on your mind. So now the weight of that thing has now seeped into, and it has gotten so heavy because you haven't cleared the space mentally. You didn't clear the spiritual space. So you didn't clear the mental space. So now it's into the emotional body. The emotional body is now trapping the pain, trapping the energy, trapping whatever, right? And then by the time it gets to the physical, now it's in your cellular memory. Because we have to understand that the body remembers. The body remembers everything. So if you're not doing the work to clear this energy, things like regenerating the cells, shedding the old skin, doing things to help regulate stress and, things that balance us out hormonally, different things like that, then it's like I don't know, it's just very easy to just slip into the wrong side of things. I will say that. Let me look at this because there was another one. But anyway, so things seep down into the cellular memory. And this is why we can be triggered when we get a hug from someone. This is why we can be triggered when someone, just the smallest of things can trigger us because of cellular memory. I've had people get on my table as a massage therapist, and I was massaging an older lady. She was about, probably in her 50s. She was an older white woman, and she was, a little thinner. So I thought like maybe I was giving her too much pressure. I was a deep tissue therapist. And she was like, no, I just feel like, you know, she was like just so relieved, like, but she was crying and she was like, I'm just so relieved. Like I've been having that knot in my arm for like the longest of time and I just felt it release. And so what's happening is a somatic emotional release, right? And the somatic emotional release is where the body spontaneously, right? Spontaneously releases something that's been pent up. It doesn't had to have happened that day. It doesn't even have to have happened that year. This could be years on end that this has happened, and someone could literally touch you and trigger a somatic emotional release. That the memory that is trapped within this space in the body is now being released. So this is why my grandma could ask me how my day was, and I'm just carrying everything on my back from the day. Like even as a child, just having a rough day at school and just the heaviness and the weight of that, right? Just being in my aura. And then my grandma coming and her just putting her arms around me and literally just allowing me to like release that energy, and I just start crying. Just to be like, well, yeah, it was a rough day, but I needed that release. And I was carrying it on my shoulders. It's like sometimes when you're stressed and you're tense and everything is up here, it's like we begin to trap it and hold on to it. And you have to just remember to breathe and bring that shit down. Bring those arms down. Bring it all. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, the body remembers. That's all I'm going to say. The body remembers. It goes into detox. It goes into a lot actually that I feel like it's super important for us to know and to have on hand, especially for just to have something in your home, especially for that you can whip up or make yourself on at any given moment to balance yourself back out. I feel like that's important. They have stuff in here, recommendations for things like Alzheimer's and dementia, um, and the supplements that are needed for that. Adrenal fatigue, things like that. Hold on. So anyway, I'm gonna keep looking, but like I was saying, that there's a lot of things that you can do to help avoid these kinds of feelings, as far as mental health and spirituality is concerned. Basically just keeping yourself balanced, because these things will not take away your gifts. I know a lot of people be scared to take certain supplements, or take certain, just anything, because they're scared of what that might do to their gifts or their ability to connect with source, and it will not do anything. If you are meant to have these gifts, you were born with these gifts, right? So even as a child, I had these gifts. Everything was balanced. I was seeing everything, but I began to shut that down, obviously, as a defense mechanism, because people are telling me that this is not real, and I don't want to be stressing myself out about why I'm experiencing something that everybody else is not. So as a child, you begin to turn it off. So being born with these gifts, there's nothing that you can do to essentially get rid of them. This is why so many people are coping and self-medicating and losing, because you cannot get rid of these gifts. You can only balance them out and learn to use them. Yeah, or learn how to quiet them at the most. So again, that's just with the mental health and spirituality aspect of it. Like I said, things go in layers. We start at the spiritual and we work our way down until it becomes physical. So being spiritually attacked like that can absolutely cause mental health issues. And so the two are not completely separate, because being spiritually attacked like that, and obviously you seeing how things work in layers, it going from the spiritual to the mental aspect. This is why we have to fight spiritually. This is why we have to stay armored up spiritually, because things start spiritually. So when you're attacked so much spiritually, mentally it will take a hold of you, because it's exhausting to be fighting constantly spiritually. Trust me, I know, I've been there. So I say that to say, take care of yourself. Um, and don't let things go unaddressed. Do not be ashamed to feel, if you feel like you are more on one side than the other. If you feel like you are dealing with more mental illness than you are experiencing, having spiritual experience, or not being able to separate the two, then absolutely find somebody to talk to. I think that there's a stigma around the way that Western culture does things, and for good reason, why we don't trust the Western medicine. Um, but if it comes to a life or death situation, I would rather you have something that can help you get through the season than to not make it at all. And I think people have to understand that some people are simply just not as strong as others, and we have to be very clear on that. Everybody's not made for this, and you can't make everybody made for it, because you want to guilt trip everybody into living a lifestyle that you practice. And maybe people stumbled upon this process and it's not for them. Maybe this was a suggestion from someone else, and maybe this ain't the right path. Maybe some people do need to go back and have a more guided, structured pathway to the divine, and that's their prerogative. I think that the shame that the spiritual community puts around people not being able to handle how heavy this path is and how real it is, that shit needs to go away. All of that shit needs to go away. There's people that are dying because they don't want to go get help because they feel like they should be able to handle certain things that are mentally torturing them because y'all on these platforms say so. Fuck that and go get help. Like, if you know that you're not capable, or you know that you're struggling, or you know that potentially someone in your life is going to be affected by the decisions of that you have going on, or that you know that you're struggling, you're having and I say that to say that I'm grateful that I do have people in my life that I have been able to go to and say, this is too much. I'm having an experience that nobody else is having, and it's a lot. And having people to walk with me through that journey, even if they didn't know what that looked like, even if they didn't know what the other side looked like that for me, or what the other side of that looked like for me is what I'm meant to say. And still just walk with me while I figured it out. That is the value of community. Maybe you don't know, maybe they don't know, but at least you have someone to be there for you and with you while you experience it. So don't let these people guilt trip y'all into not seeking help if you know that something is simply burdening you in a way that you cannot handle. We also have to be very careful of mental illness and spirituality, because a lot of people are up against battles with their families. A lot of people are up against a lot in terms of being able to come out the spiritual closet and to be able to experience their spirituality freely without having to deal with the attacks. Some people don't want to armor up every goddamn day and have to fight just from the time that they get up out the bed to going in the kitchen because they're the only person in their family that believes what they believe. We have to stop being so hard on ourselves and others in terms of this path being linear, it looking one way, or being one thing. That's between you and the Most High, however this path looks for you. And I don't think that anybody needs to put their lives in danger over it, because mental health is very tricky. And more often than not, it can lead to very dire circumstances for those who are not helped. So, I mean, we can't just pretend like it's not happening, because it is. And it was far before this situation that this needed to be addressed. But this is just, I feel like I haven't heard people address this aspect of it. And we need to be real raw about what it looks like for a lot of people. But anywho, I do it because I love y'all. Forgive me, like I said, I didn't have anything prepared. I just wanted to have an open dialogue about this and where the current energy is. But with that being said, it is very important that we do armor up. It is very important that you do protect your energy. It is very important that we're aware of who, what, and where we spend our time, energy, and resources, because the energy is tricky right now. The veil is not just thin, it is pretty much gone at this point. We are experiencing upgrades of our energy in such a way that I've never seen before. I've never experienced or felt before. I find myself vibrating throughout the day randomly. And it's a very subtle vibration, but I feel like I'm just experiencing very subtle upgrades. I'm very exhausted kind of energy as well. So there's a lot of different changes that we're experiencing right now. And so I'm urging everyone to do more than just a little bit of self-care while this Aries energy is present. Um, the Kundalini experience alone, also, if we just want to talk about it, the Kundalini experience alone, the dark night of the soul by itself, okay? So we need to give people some grace around here. So okay, so he has one that says mental illness here, and it says arnica, catnip, holy thistle, like I said, peppermint, rosemary, St. John's wort, skullcap, vervain, wood betony. So these are, again, herbs that will help with balancing out these energies if you ever feel like you are too far to one side or the other. Because being far too spiritual too, we have to understand being far too spiritual can also cause psychosis as well. Like, it's not just the uber ultra depressed and grounded, it can also be the uber spiritual, the ultra out of touch with reality motherfuckers that are going through shit too. So people that come as like, oh, love and light, it'd be a lot of those motherfuckers that end up in cults. It'd be a lot of them that end up leading people astray. So let's not get the love and light confused. It's really the shadow workers who are really out here saving people, because we're in the dark dealing with the shadows of the people that y'all discard in community as is. So yeah, I don't want to hear anything about that, because I don't really think that Jesus was a light worker. I think he was a dark worker. I think he knew how to transmute terrible situations and turn them into amazing ones. I think he was a wonderful alchemist in that way. I don't think that he was a light worker at all. I think he chose the people he chose because they were the ones that needed it the most. So the work that I do, whether in the physical or the spiritual, is always going to be to help the disenfranchised. So, please don't take me saying any of this as judging anyone, whether it's either of the situations, whether you're too far on the left hand side or the right hand side, whatever the case may be. This is no judgment at all. I just want everybody to survive whatever experiences that they're having, if we're being completely honest. Whether you align with what I feel and believe or not, I still want you to have the freedom to live and choose another day. But we do need to take care of ourselves spiritually. So when it comes to spiritual health as well, making sure that we're taking time to assess our environments that we're in, making sure that we are not opening ourselves up too much to other people's traumas and experiences where we're taking them on, being very careful of allowing who we allow to have access to our energy in the ways of what energy it is that they can bring us, whether they're well-intentioned or not. Being very careful with what we surround ourselves with. If 24 hours are in a day, and out of 16 of those hours I'm listening to all negativity, or I'm only bringing something negative into my system, or something that's not even like helping me to grow or laugh or smile or anything, brings me no joy at all, like throughout the day, to spend so much of your time on those things, like that's not gonna get you where you want to be. It's not healthy. It's just not balanced. It doesn't make for a balanced experience. So we have to take the time to be diligent enough to continually practice protecting our energy, not allowing access to just any and everyone, and making sure that our space is clear and comfortable for ourselves to do our work, to be diligent, and to make sure that we're making it a lifestyle and not a fad. I think people that are coming just because they thought it looked cool and not because they were guided, I think a lot of those people have to be careful too, because there's a lot of people that come just because it's shiny or it's popular or it's, oh, zodiacs and horoscopes, and then you get over here and you realize, oh no, shit is real. And now, you know what I'm saying, you're backtracking. It's like, yeah, because this is not just horoscopes and tarot and shit. This is some real shit. People are experiencing real shit in their lives. Like, I mean, you have to understand that. Like, it's a lot deeper than that, you know? So I think it looks glamorous, but we had to be very careful about what we promote in this community. And yeah, so protecting our energy for sure. Making sure that we're protecting our energy and making sure that we're around people that also know that you have a gift and it needs to be protected. You have to be around people that recognize that in you, because the people who don't are never going to know how to treat you. You're never going to thrive in those environments. They don't know that you're looking at a gem. This is one of God's people. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to be particular. We got to be very particular with our energy, you know? Anywho. Okay, so I'm done with this. I recommended the book. And like I said, it happens in so many different ways. I was wondering if the chart was on here, but I don't think it is. Anyway, wonderful book. Get that. But hey, TJ, peace, TJ. Like I said, I didn't prepare anything. I just wanted to talk about this. So it happens in layers, though. I want everybody to keep that in mind, that it happens spiritually first, which is why we have to be protecting our energy first and foremost, because that's where it starts. So making sure that you're staying prayed up, that you're meditating, that you're closing out your energy at the end and the beginning of every day. It may seem like a lot to do, but really it's not. If it extends my time here, I'm gonna do it. I ain't gonna lie to you. I have a little one that needs me. So I'm gonna do whatever I have to do to protect my energy and his, and I'm not gonna let anybody trick me out of that space, not even myself, because we have to keep in mind that it's mind over matter in this shit. So at the end of the day, before I leave my house, I say my prayers, whether to myself or out loud, you know. I pray over my home. I pray over the people that enter into my home. Anybody that crosses this threshold is going to be protected when it comes to me. I'm not going to let you risk me not being protected. So if you come in here, hell yeah, you're going to be protected. I don't play them type of games. You know what I'm saying? Like, wherever I'm at, I'm going to bless the space. You know what I'm saying? This is what it means when we say that we, as spiritual people, sometimes we unknowingly protect spaces and places that we're put because we are protected. You know, we are the ones that are putting in the work to keep a space protected, you know, and you don't even know it. So it's like, you know, before I leave the house, I make sure that I, armor up before leaving out the door. Make sure that I armor up before getting into bed. You know, making peace with my space and my spirit team. All of those things are important. And journaling every day, staying grounded, making sure that I'm not, like I said, too far to the left, because again, This is where we get those very Luciferian kind of things, when you get way too spiritual and it's like F the physical. And then when you get way too physical and it's F the spiritual, then you get that demonic, satanic kind of energy. So it's like we have to be very careful of being too extreme in the way that we operate within our gifts and abilities in our path, which is why I think a lot of people choose the middle for this reason, because not knowing how to swim can be life or death for some people, and I don't mean that lightly, and I don't think anybody should take it lightly. But I love y'all infinitely, and I just wanted to open up the conversations, and I hope that other people will take my lead and take it seriously, because I've seen a lot of things happen. I've had a cousin who passed from a person literally going into psychosis and them being one of the last people on this person's mind before they went into psychosis, and now the whole obsession is now with my cousin because this person is experiencing this psychosis. So now their obsession, because this is who was on their mind, or there was a hidden animosity or whatever underlying something here, that when you now are in this psychosis, now you have this fixation, this obsession with this person, and it begins to, now your whole, everything is about them, everything is, they're doing this to me, and it gets very dangerous, and my cousin lost his life that way, someone being obsessed with him and experiencing psychosis. And I say that to say that it is very real, and it's happening every day, and it's not just what we're seeing again with this young lady, but we're seeing it on a regular basis in the people in our surroundings and environments, and we're not addressing it. So yeah, I just wanted to share my truth about that, and I love y'all infinitely, and I think that the more we have these conversations, the more that we'll begin to dive deeper into how to fix it and how to mitigate these things, and how to use our gifts in a way that we can help people heal from these illnesses, because these are not things that I think are life sentences. I think that these are things that we come into this life to correct. I think that anybody could easily happen into one of these pitfalls not paying attention. And I think that we should be very careful of the harsh judgments that we put around other people who are experiencing these things, because we are not far off from those experiences. So yeah, let this inspire you to share your experience. Let this inspire you to share what this path has looked like for you in a very raw way, because somebody needs to hear it. I promise you that. We'll do more about this. We'll talk more about this. I want to invite more people to the platform sooner rather than later, but I'm being patient because I want to make sure that I'm choosing people that align with me. So I love y'all infinitely. Again, I do hope that more people start to have these conversations about mental illness in the spiritual community, and what that looks like, and other alternative forms of therapy and ways for people to get help and to balance these things out, because I know that there are people who are gifted enough to be able to help give more insight on what balancing out the aura looks like, what clearing generational patterns look like, people going to more shamans to help clear their, these different things, like these different patterns or obstructions within their own psyche, to be able to heal and be able to get back on the path. So like I said, it's not a life sentence, but it is something that needs to be addressed and corrected. And if more people knew the proper things about spirituality that are not being promoted in the media, about how healing and how therapeutic having community can be, it's like we're missing an opportunity to help heal. Like there's something in this conversation that's missing, which is the opportunity to help people heal by using our gifts and abilities. Some of y'all are able to do miraculous and amazing things, and we're waiting on you. So I love y'all, and we'll talk more. Peace. Y'all like, share, comment, subscribe, donate if you feel inclined. All of the things and all of the information will be below. I love y'all. Peace. Bye, DJ.